All right. Good afternoon. My name is Shane Brodie. I'm traveling around the U.S. talking to trans people, non-binary people, and hopefully some gender non-conforming people. I myself am a transsexual man. That's a little bit older language. Mostly people use trans man or transgender man. I tend to go by the older language just because that's when I came out. So I'm traveling around the U.S. and I think it's really great that people are willing to talk to me in this kind of, in a time right now when it's, trans issues are out in the public and there's a lot of, how do I say it? I don't know. There's a lot of fear out there. So I'm glad that, people are willing to meet with me. And today I have a guest and she's going to introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Leah Peters. I'm 60. Been a medical professional for about 40 years.
Yeah. In fact, we're kind of near where you work, which was very convenient. Yeah.
And I'm also an Air Force veteran.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, are you from here, from this area?
Yes, I was born and raised here.
Oh, wow. I'm wondering a little bit about Derry. Why is there a town here? Was there a mill here? That sort of thing?
Well, it goes all the way back to the early 1700s.
Okay.
We had some Scottish-Irish immigrants moved here shortly after they came over from the old country.
Right.
And they claim that here in Derry, the first potatoes were grown in the United States.
Okay. Like commercially kind of grown.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how true that is, but
yeah.
But yeah, it goes all the way back to colonial times.
Okay. Yeah, I was traveling through and I mostly saw modern buildings. So maybe I wasn't in the area where there are older buildings. Because I always love to seek those out and check them out.
Gone through a lot of change in the last 50 years. When I was growing up, my mother was from the city, my father was from a town south of here.
What city? Nashua?
No, she was from Manchester.
Manchester, okay.
He was from Windham.
Okay.
Shortly before I was born, they moved to Londonderry, which is kind of in between.
Okay.
And at the time, in 1960, there was only like 1,500 people in Londonderry.
Okay.
Now there's more than 30,000.
Oh my goodness.
And Derry went through something similar. When I was growing up, it was like 5,000.
So 20 times.
And now it's like 35,000.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah,
Why has there been so much growth, do you think?
We've got a lot of transplants from Massachusetts.
Okay.
Escaping what used to be, we used to call Massachusetts Taxachusetts.
Okay, yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, so a few years ago when I graduated from Harvard Divinity School, I came up here actually afterwards because I just really needed a rest. I just wanted to go camping, and I'd heard there was some good camping up here. And I noticed that there was a bunch of ski parks. And at that time, of course, it was summer, so they weren't open. But I camped around them, and it was really nice. It was great. I was surprised at how many ski resorts there are up here.
Yes.
It must draw a lot of people.
We don't have nearly as many as we used to. There used to be a lot more. Matter of fact, my uncle ran a small area in the town over from us.
Okay. Yeah.
It was 3 times the size of this hill, but
Sure.
still small. The problem is in the 70s and 80s, most of them shut down because of insurance reasons. Insurance, they basically ran most of these little places out of business.
Yeah, that's interesting because probably the bigger operations could still operate. Yeah. That's one of the things about overregulation. Is sometimes it really favors the bigger outfits. We saw that too with the lockdowns with COVID. It really
mom and pops.
Yeah, it really privileged more the corporate entities, and then the mom and pops. A lot of them went under, or they were really struggling. Yeah, I know. It's been really awful, and that didn't need to happen. I feel like that's my opinion. That really didn't need to happen. Anyway, so let's get back to your identity. How specifically do you identify? Are you a trans woman?
I actually, like you,
Yeah.
I came out a long time ago.
Okay.
So I prefer the older term myself.
Okay. So you're a transsexual woman?
Transsexual woman, yeah.
Yeah. And why do you prefer that term?
A couple reasons.
Yeah.
The word transgender, a lot of cis folks are going to interpret that as changing genders.
Ah, yes.
And I didn't change my gender.
That's exactly why I use transsexual, actually, besides it being more of my generation.
Yeah.
I never changed my gender.
Yeah.
I just changed my secondary sexual characteristics. I mean, I realize that I'm not going to change DNA, although I've never been tested. I realize, that there are some things about me that will still be female in some way, and I'm not worried about it. But definitely my secondary sexual characteristics changed. And as I grow older, I'm definitely biological in terms of being a man. I have some of the problems that older men get, and I'm sure you probably also experienced that since you, I guess you transitioned quite a while ago.
It was I started.
Yeah, maybe just
I got divorced in 2003, and basically started immediately transitioning after that. And depending on how you measure it, so
about 20 years.
When I just put it this way, I went full time I went full time in 2005.
Yeah.
So you can say 16 years, 17 years now.
Yeah. Did you have to go through the longer process, or was it informed consent?
Well, I was pretty lucky. The therapist I had was very cool.
Yeah.
Very patient-centered. So I just went in and talked about whatever I wanted and got things done when I wanted.
Yeah.
Never had a problem.
That's great. Wow, that's wonderful.
I know a lot of people back then have a different experience, but I didn't. I lucked out.
No, actually, during the time period when you were transitioning, more the informed consent model was coming in, which was great for a lot of people because most trans people had been thinking about transitioning for a really long time before actually doing it. So when you go to the doctor, really what you need is just the doctor's expertise, which is the actual physical stuff, or sometimes therapy. Some people need a little therapy, but
that's where I'm kind of a little more conservative than other people, because I think most people could benefit from some therapy. Because
I agree.
You're dealing with so many.
I agree.
Different issues.
I don't think it should be mandated, though, is the thing. But I think that, if people do have issues, maybe it should be encouraged. And there should be people, this is just my point of view, more therapists out there who are more competent, so it's less of a stigma and you can find the help you need. Right, yeah.
Like I said, I got lucky. My therapist was... it's an interesting story because she had never had a trans patient before.
Yeah.
And you're going to say, well, how was it that she managed to be so good?
Yeah.
I actually looked up a name for a therapist while I was still living in Illinois.
Okay.
And
So you went and lived in Illinois for a while and came back?
I was in Illinois for 14 years.
Okay.
But what I think happened is I think I actually found her husband's name.
Okay.
Because her husband was a psychiatrist and he had done a lot of gender work.
Okay. So she knew about it somewhat
Yes.
from her relationship.
So I just kind of lucked into that.
Yeah.
Another thing I got lucky on.
Excellent. And, it's not like trans people need some extraordinary care either, right? I mean, we're just people who are dealing with things like anybody else.
But back then, in 2003,
yeah.
there was only one endocrinologist in the entire state. Mm-hmm. One.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you're in a state that has a smaller population. Same thing with Alaska. Like, we have, like, two, just like one or two of something, and then the waiting list is a long time.
Yeah.
So if you're a medical professional out there, come to these smaller states and help out for a while, even just as a traveling doctor, traveling nurse, NPs, PAs, physician assistants, etc. These smaller places, smaller populations really need you.
Things have changed a lot, though. Now there are dozens of doctors in several different clinics.
Okay, great. Well, you said it's really been growing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But back then, like I said, there was only one endocrinologist.
Yeah.
And because her husband had been doing it, she knew who to send me to.
Yeah, great. That's wonderful.
Didn't have to do any research at all.
That's so easy. That's wonderful.
Like I said,
usually the story is a lot more difficult than that. So I'm glad
I got lucky.
I'm so glad it was so easy for you. Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, you hear some stories about people having to go several states over to get care and that sort of thing. So I'm, you're blessed. That's great.
I was also lucky in that I'm a medical professional and I make decent money.
Right. That's another factor. Yeah. So how was that? What was that like transitioning, like on the job? Because I'm imagining, or in this place that people know you for your pretty much your whole life.
I had no idea what was going to happen.
Okay.
And I got extremely lucky.
Yeah.
I knew that there was probably some rumors starting to fly around the hospital because obviously my hair was getting longer.
Sure.
And at least one nurse seemed to figure out that I was doing electrolysis.
Yeah, they can pick up on stuff. On stuff.
So I actually came out to my boss a little earlier than I originally planned. And he was like totally cool. And he said, and I thought he was going to say we need to go talk to human resources. He goes, no, let's talk to our administrator first.
Yes.
We had a department administrator. And sit down, tell him what's happening. And I kid you not, this is 2003.
Yeah.
And the first word out of his mouth was, congratulations.
Yeah, wonderful.
Like I said, I had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah, right.
And then he says, now that you've talked to both your supervisor and me, why don't we set up an appointment to see human resources? So we did. We went over to talk to her, lay out what's happening. And again, I got extremely lucky. She goes, not a problem. Just let me know what you need.
Yeah, right.
I'm there waiting for the shoe to drop, and it never did.
Yeah, and that kind of situation where you're dealing with legal documents and that sort of thing can be really frustrating because sometimes they don't come in for a long time, and then your records are kind of mixed. So it sometimes requires a lot of talking, a lot of meetings, and that sort of thing. So I'm glad it was easy once again for you. That's great.
That human resources person, it turns out at her previous assignment, she had dealt with a transitioning employee, so she already knew the ropes.
Great.
Like I said, this is 2003. I didn't expect that at all.
Well, I mean, that's almost 20 years ago, but I mean, it really wasn't that long ago. I mean, I will say, though, during that time, this was post 9/11.
Yeah.
And so security around identity was really high then. Around that time when you were starting, I was up in Alaska again, and I was working, and I was also a student at University of Alaska. I was finishing out my undergraduate. I was an older student, and I got a letter from the Social Security Agency saying that I was being flagged because certain things on in the system weren't matching up. And I would tell you that's
a no match letter.
Yeah, that's a terrifying letter to receive, something like that from the government. And there was nothing I could do about it because, I couldn't really change some things.
Yeah, back then it could get you in big trouble with your employer.
Yeah. So I had to go to HR. I had to explain everything to them. At that time, I wasn't out. Right? So so I had to out myself, which is frankly really none of their business. It's my medical history is none of their business. Just so that I wouldn't be flagged by the federal government. Anyway, so back to you. What was it like socially here? Because you grew up here. Yeah.
Like I said, I had no idea what to expect, but everything in the hospital went smooth as glass, except for one minor incident. Well, two minor incidents.
Okay.
I guess not too long after I had a meeting with my coworkers, one of them, I'm not sure if he was even at the meeting, later decided to put a nasty note in my mailbox.
Oh, see, that's so cowardly. What a coward.
Which my supervisor caught. And, the reason this coward could do that was, I guess he had already given his 2-week notice. He was leaving anyway. He thought he could do this.
What a wuss, though.
So I never saw whatever it was he wrote.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good.
And the only other incident I had was one night. It was, I want to say, it was only like 6 or 9 months after I went full time. Someone called in the middle of the night. Because I worked the night shift.
Sure.
Called and
probably drunk or something.
And asked me if I was a man.
Okay.
I have no idea who that was, but I just said nothing, and I just hung up. But,
wow. Yeah. You don't.
But I left in a hurry when the day shift came.
Yeah. You don't owe anybody an answer, especially some cowards who's gonna call in the middle of the night. You know? That's wild. Well, you dealt with that really well, but in all that time, that's pretty good because you're a pretty public figure in a small town.
I did have one other thing.
Yeah.
I forgot. Up until I started full time, everybody seemed to like me. I got good reviews. But after I transitioned at work, my reviews seemed to suddenly become marginal.
Oh.
And I guess some people were talking about me to my supervisor behind my back.
Would this be fellow coworkers or would this be patients?
It was another department.
Okay.
I work a lot with, because I work the night shift, I work a lot with the emergency room. And it was people from the emergency room.
Okay. So it was a clear demarcation.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And so finally, after putting up with this for about 2 years, a certain doctor decided to write me up over an incident that was more their fault than mine. And they even suspended me for a day.
Yeah. Wow.
Because they said it was a delay of patient care or something. But like I said, it was something that was more their fault than mine.
Yeah.
So they wrote up a letter of counseling, and I was asked to sign it.
A letter of counseling?
Yeah.
So that means like you were given the talking to?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then after my boss walked away, I guess he got called away for something, I decided I added another paragraph.
Oh,
and
you're spicy.
And I made a copy of it. And then after I left, I went to human resources.
Yeah.
And I started explaining to them, I said, I've been putting up with this for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I said a certain word, and their attitude changed. So when the word harassment came out of my mouth.
Yes. Well, they have to take it seriously then, right?
And so they set me up an appointment with the hospital administrator. And I met with him, and he said he would investigate it, get back with me. And
I love it, by the way, that you're such a quiet and kind of demure person, and you're not putting up with any crap. I love that.
Well, like I say, I put up with it for 2 years.
Yeah. But I mean,
I think once or twice I told my boss, I said, "Do you know why they are doing this, right?"
Yeah, but what I mean is that some people just to get by, would not cause any waves, especially when you're in a licensed profession and etc. There's a lot at stake, so it's really incredibly brave of you to do that.
So he gets back to me in 2 weeks, and he says, "Well, this doesn't really rise to our definition of harassment." Okay, that which I was disappointed when he said that.
Yes.
However, I never had another problem after that.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. I'm sure. Well, if they admit that there's a problem, that means it's a lot more work for them, right? And then you have a case, and then you can sue them.
But they obviously talked to somebody.
Yes, they obviously talked to somebody. So that's a good outcome.
Yes.
That's a good outcome.
Unfortunately, he left us a couple of years ago. He retired.
Okay.
But he was a story unto himself, because he originally started off as just a regular lab tech. He was all the way to CEO.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, that's totally wild. So, I guess we just talked about some of the negative aspects. What are some of the more joyous things that happened, maybe socially or with your own self?
Well, just being... I think the best thing for me was probably HRT, simply because...
And that
said hormone replacement therapy.
Yes.
It was like my life changed the day I started estrogen.
Could you just feel it?
All of a sudden, I slept like a baby.
Oh, wow.
I hadn't slept that good since I was a kid.
Wow.
I went from a glasses half empty person to a glasses half full. Like 180 degree change.
Optimistic. Wow.
And I just felt mentally whole and could actually emote somewhat, whereas before everything was just anger or silence.
Oh, interesting. Anger or silence.
Yeah, I wasn't a very fun person before.
You're so smiley, though. I can't imagine that. But
yeah, no.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
Didn't used to be that way.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. Another way I like to put it is I never knew how unhappy I was until I did start estrogen.
Yeah, that's deep. That's deep. Yeah. I knew a guy who
kind of unlocked that door.
Yeah, I knew a guy whose mother had terrible dental problems, and I guess so she was in pain for a long time, and then she had a lot of those teeth pulled. This was a long time ago, and suddenly her personality changed, and she just became a really nice person where she was really mean before. So these medical things can really affect people, and I love it that you felt the change immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's so wonderful. I'll tell you about testosterone. You know what I felt immediately was hungry. I was just famished. I was like, I can't get enough food.
Need to eat.
Yeah, and trans men often will have that problem at first and will blow up a little bit. And for me, I kept it, which is fine. I don't care. I've been up and down in my weight throughout my life. I don't care. But yeah, it's a thing because we're kind of immediately starting to grow more muscle and bone density and all that stuff. Yeah, so it happens. What kind of physical changes did you feel? Now
this is going to sound really, I I don't know, stereotypical or maybe even over the top.
It's fine. It's fine.
Subtle changes in all my senses.
Okay.
And then
Like hearing and
very early on,
touch.
I had an experience that's going to sound really bizarre.
No, that's fine.
Even the wind against my skin felt different.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah.
I can't remember what things were like before, and that's a good thing.
One of the people I interviewed early on, another trans woman, younger than you, she said that it was less of a physical thing, but all of a sudden she was much more sensitive to other people.
Oh,
you know, everything, and more. She was more worried. You know, more. Just like it was like her emotional sense also expanded. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I can tell you from the other side too. Mine sort of dulled a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. Less crying. Mm. Yeah. But you get over that.
Yeah.
You know.
Whereas I almost never cried before.
Yeah.
Now, a good movie. Oop.
Yeah. I will tell you though, that is just a phase with testosterone though. I mean, some trans men keep that, but I did not remain so shut off. Mm-hmm. It was just initially that was. I just got used to it, and probably I'm just different emotionally now, and I'm just used to it. I probably do cry a little bit less, but I find that crying is actually a blessing. Mm. What do you think about?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Don't you think?
Oh yeah,
it's like a release.
Cleansing.
Yeah.
Whereas everything was stuck inside before.
Yeah. I will tell you, and this is how I agree with you with the therapy part, is that I didn't know how to deal with my emotions afterwards because they were so stuck. And they were just like, I could feel them. I could feel it like spinning around in my chest. And I was like, what do I do now? I used to be able to cry. Now I just didn't know what to do. Yeah.
That reminds me of a funny little incident I had with my therapist.
Oh yeah.
Early on, I think it was the first or second session. It was. I was telling her, I said I don't understand men. It's like they're a whole different species. Yeah. I mean, well, if you've lived another life where you didn't feel like a man, it's hard to empathize with that, right? Yeah. Yeah, I get it. That must sound kind of funny, but when it's deeply inside of you, that is your identity. Let's see what else. My experience was probably a little different. Well, I shouldn't say there's such a spectrum.
Yeah.
There's such a spectrum. I was oblivious as a child, kind of. Then around 11 or 12, things just started going like I describe it as wonky. The world was making less and less sense. Mm-hmm. And I spent the next couple decades just trying to get by. Just trying to get by.
Mm-hmm. Was the military service part of that?
Not really. That had more to do with the Reagan recession.
Okay, yeah. A lot of people do go to the military when there's a recession,
I do come from kind of a military family, though. There's like a half dozen of us that were all in the Air Force.
Sure. Wow. Family tradition. So some wind picked up, so I turned off the mic for a minute. So you were talking about your military service?
Well, I didn't go into the military because I was trans, like I said. It was more to do with the Reagan recession at the time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, I was just trying to keep on going, hoping someday I would figure out whatever was wrong with me.
Okay. So you didn't have quite the language for it back then? Okay.
At all.
And was this like the 90s, 80s, 90s?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's right. You said Reagan, so it must have been like in the 80s. Somewhere. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then occasionally, after I got married, there were, occasional thoughts about different things, but you just bury that.
What kind of thoughts?
Well, just vague thoughts about what life would be like otherwise. That's the best way I can describe it.
Did you
But
notice?
of course, it's because it's all crazy talk, because that's impossible.
Did you notice other women out there who you thought, oh, I want to kind of be like her, or I admire her?
Well, I think that was the reaon I was attracted to certain women. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, it was kind of like, I wish I was them kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Are you still married, by the way?
oh no,
Okay.
divorced in 2003.
Okay.
19 years ago last month.
Okay. So that was right during your transition, the early part.
No, I didn't start transition until after the divorce.
Okay.
They didn't want to have anything to do with me.
Okay. Oh. 19 years. That's, yeah.
So like the last 6 months or so.
How long were you married, by the way?
14 years.
14 years. Okay. That's a long time.
It was just building up, and it just got to a point. It was like the dam broke,
Yeah.
and it was like a volcanic eruption. It just the stuff just kept coming out of me, and suddenly all the pieces suddenly came together.
Yeah.
And
Did you ever see another trans woman around?
no,
Okay. Had you looked on the internet?
about that time I started looking online.
Okay.
And like I said, all of a sudden the pieces fell into place, and I said, aha. But at the same time, I was obviously very scared, because I felt like this was probably going to be the end of my life as I had known it. And of course, that is what in fact happened.
Yeah.
Because I came out to the ex in early April, and we were divorced in July.
Oh, wow, that was fast. Yeah. I'm so sorry that happened.
For 2 months, it was usually silence, but then there were a couple times where I got interrogated for a couple hours at a time.
What was worse, the silence or the arguing? Or the interrogation?
They were both.
Okay, they were both pretty bad. Okay.
Yeah, it was like she was hoping it was just go away by itself,
Yeah.
and then occasionally she would get frustrated and unleash on me for like
Wow.
a couple hours, like
Wow.
I said. Although I can still remember one funny moment.
Okay. Amidst all the strife.
Yeah, so we're sitting at the dining room table. She's on one side, I'm on the other.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in a light nightgown. And she goes, "What do you want these for?"
Oh, I see. So, breasts, yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah, it was horrible. Like I said, these couple just
Yeah,
interrogate me for a couple hours before I
Yeah.
I went to bed because I had to go work later.
Yeah, that's stressful.
And
Yeah.
I was just crying myself to sleep.
So, at some point, pretty quickly, your wife was like, I just can't do this.
Didn't want to have anything to do with it. She thought, oh, you can just put it back in the bottle. No. That is impossible.
Yeah. Listen up, folks. It is impossible. Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot put toothpaste back in the tube.
No. After a life of not knowing what was going on, and then you figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, what a revelation. What did that feel like? I mean, besides your relationship, which was souring, I mean, what did it feel like for you?
Like I said, it felt like, oh, I finally all the pieces.
Yeah.
I know what the problem is.
Yeah.
But
But
this
it's more-
person doesn't want me to do anything about it.
Yeah. Right.
Pretend like it never happened.
Right.
Impossible.
Yeah. Impossible. Did you feel any like joy about that, like that you'd finally found?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
like it was a two-sided coin. You
Yeah.
had joy, but you also have terror.
Yeah. What's the terror part?
The terror was because I knew it was probably going to be the end of the marriage, and it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that sometimes happens. I mean, it's very, some people have described it as also being a transition for a spouse or a significant other.
Yeah.
Because it is a big life change.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And some people can't work it out.
I think a large portion it for them was, what will the neighbors think?
Right. Right. Yeah, oh, that's terrible. That's probably the worst reason to give up on a relationship.
But they're also a strong Catholic.
Okay. So just
A combination of both.
yeah, a little stodgy, maybe a little set in beliefs. Yeah, that's too bad because it could have been, a point of growth. There are a lot of couples out there. I don't mean to be doom and gloom here because there are a lot of couples that do work through it, and they're quite successful and happy.
Well, back then, those kind of couples were almost non-existent.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Or maybe they were just living their lives and being happy and not on the internet complaining. Now we know everybody's business because everybody's on the internet spilling their beans. Anyway.
Oh, that brought
Yeah.
brings us to a point, a big mistake I made.
Okay.
I was stupid and did not get a lawyer.
Okay. Oh, for the divorce?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, we had.
Did you
have
think it was going to be more
two-
amicable?
We have 2 children.
Okay.
Well, I was verbally promised certain things.
Oh.
And then once the divorce was finalized and I moved,
Yeah.
all that stuff disappeared.
I'm sorry you were taken in. Yeah.
And the way the divorce agreement is written, they have total control. I have nothing.
So that included, I guess, seeing your children?
Yeah.
That's terrible.
I thought I was
Terrible.
going to have phone calls, Christmas cards, Christmas presents, birthday presents. After I moved here, nothing. She wanted no contact whatsoever.
Wow. Have you been able to establish?
Nope.
No. With your children?
Nope.
Oh my God.
There. The older one just turned 28,
Okay.
and
But
the other one just turned 25.
as adults, though, do they just not want to seek you out?
Yep.
Wow.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
And here's the thing. When
Because you're so sweet. I mean,
when we were going through the divorce,
Yeah.
and we were dividing up the money, I got
Yeah.
a chunk of the house money.
Mm.
They thought I was going to take the money and run. Okay, that's what they were all expecting me to do. I turned around and put that house money in the boys' college funds.
Yeah. Because you're a responsible parent. Yeah.
And then, when they both turned 18, they got another check from me for $10,000. And in Illinois, each parent's supposed to give a third, and the child's supposed to give a third. And boom, I had already given my third.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
Before
great.
they even went to school. They already had their money.
Yeah. That's great. I'm so sorry that they didn't maintain some contact with you.
And I
That
sent a
sounds
letter
terrible.
with those checks.
Yeah.
With contact information, and I continue to send them birthday and Christmas cards. I just cut the older one off for money this year. I said, "You're 28 now."
Yes.
I said, "You probably think this is either embarrassing, or you think I'm just doing this to get in your good graces." I said, "No, it's because I'm your parent."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I cut the older one off money-wise.
And at some point, there needs to be a give back to you because you are a person living your own life.
Yeah.
And at some point, children need to understand that.
They haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
The thing is, back then, the ex said, "Oh, when they're older, I would explain it to them." I don't think they ever did.
Yeah.
And because they never did, I think their imaginations ran wild.
Yeah.
And their imaginations, probably for the last 19 years, have told them, oh, they left. They left me.
Right.
They left. And that's all they know.
Right. Yeah.
Even though I've tried explaining
Yeah.
in letters,
Yeah. And it's not
I
like
don't,
you can...
I don't think it's gotten through at all.
It's not like you can go against the court either. You can't.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No,
Yeah,
you
that was
can't.
another big fear, because she did threaten that a few times.
Yeah. Right. Oh, that's so terrible. So how are your relationships now? I don't mean like a spouse or something like that, but are you involved in your community? I know you work a lot, and
Yeah.
you have a different schedule. You
Yeah.
work night shift,
Yeah.
so life is a little harder that way. I used to be a baker, so I was also up all night. So are you active in your community? Are you active with other trans people, cisgendered people?
I've done a ton of advocacy work
Oh.
online.
Oh, nice. Great.
I've been involved with, over the years, I was involved with at least 8 different online support groups.
Yeah.
They've kind of gone away now. Everything's gone more 3D these days. But in the old days, that's all we had was the internet support groups.
Yeah, like bulletin boards and that sort of thing. Yeah. Old
And
school.
So I've interacted with a lot of people there. And then I don't know if you've ever heard of Yahoo Answers.
Yeah.
It's been closed now for 15 months or so. I think it's 15 months.
Was it archived now or something?
No.
Okay.
They archived it for 3 months, and then they just yanked the plug. So
Okay.
it's like it never existed now.
Wow.
But in the
That's the problem with digital is you could do that.
in the 10 years or so I was active there, I answered more than 100,000 questions.
Oh my goodness.
I was by far and away the #1 top contributor in the LGBT section.
Oh my goodness.
As a matter of fact, that's why I was attacked by trolls so much.
So you were known online as a specific. Were you under your name?
There were a couple gay men.
Were you under your name, by the way?
What?
Were you under your name, by the way?
Briefly once, but usually I was under various names. Like for most of my time there, because I was starting to have problems with what they call it there
Let's take a break for a second.
when someone copies your name.
Yeah. Okay, so the word you were looking for was cloning.
Yeah,
So people
Yahoo-
would clone your account.
Yeah, they would copy my screen name, but you could tell they were a clone because they were a level 1, I was a level 7.
Right. So basically, this was kind of like a encyclopedia.
So I changed.
In a way.
So I changed my screen name to clones don't have like 100,000 points.
You're hilarious.
Yeah.
You're hilarious. I gotta say that.
And a lot of times they tried getting me to change my name because they knew that would make it easier to fool people.
Sure. Well, that's amazing. I had no idea that this was going on. This is like kind of an underground kind of communication.
Yeah, like I said, it was probably closer to 150,000 questions I answered.
That's amazing.
They weren't all trans questions, of course, but that's what I was there for.
Yeah. So it's almost like a Wikipedia, kind of like an encyclopedia.
I would give
information.
people sources, like I used to give them the Dr. Becky list and various other sources because no one else was giving them those sources.